All right. About 1 minute earlier. Ooh, there's already people here. Hello, the 7 people that are here. Looks like everything is good. Mic test. Oh, everything is reading great. I'm super excited to start this. You guys can send things in the live chat and I will see them, but I won't respond to them immediately for 2 reasons. One, I want to try not to get too off topic while I'm teaching the first part of the lesson. And 2, there's about a 30-second lag. So I will see whatever you type immediately, but by the time that you see my response, it'll be about 30 seconds. So if you type something, it's like, she's ignoring me. Just wait. I will get to you, I promise. Yeah, as of now, the plan is to start exactly at 6. So I'm just going to hang out, wait for whoever's going to show up. And yeah, we'll get started. In this 5 minutes here, if you do have any quick questions, you can feel free to comment them. If they're quick, I'll get to them. If you ask me how to sculpt a full character, I might tell you to wait. But anything else is a great game right now. Ooh, 1 person. See, I just saw your message as soon as it happened, and now you'll see me say hello and 30 seconds later. So you can get an idea of how long it takes, but that's just kind of the trade-off of live streaming. I was going to type hello back, and I'm like, I am here in real life. I don't need to type hello back. So used to messaging you guys on Discord and stuff. Like, that doesn't make any sense here. I'm actually really impressed. There's already quite a few people here. Good job. You guys are so diligent. I just recently graduated from college and wasn't a big fan of class, gotta say. So I'm like, go you guys, doing the right thing. I learned a lot just on my own free time, if that makes more sense. I'd rather give the lessons and listen to them. Exactly. Dalton understands. Yeah. So the lesson plan actually printed out for me to have reference in front of me. It mentions that there's 45 minutes of content. That's assuming this goes somewhat slow. We might finish much earlier on 6:30 instead. And if so, I'm pretty open. I'm a freelance artist. I have all the time in the world, honestly. So if Q&A goes for more than a half hour, I'm fine with that. So don't be shy to ask questions. I really, really like doing this. That's why I'm doing it. 2 minutes. I have everything set up. I just really had nothing to do. So I'm glad you guys are here. Doesn't feel as weird just like sitting in front of my stuff waiting. I mean, I guess I could talk to my boyfriend. Hi, Ricky.
Hello.
My camera guy, hey, my wonderful boyfriend is in the back. He's the one who got all this set up because he's the best. I mean, we fought it for like 3 hours today because the mic was sounding terrible, but it should sound okay now. We're still aiming for everything to be even crisper and sharper in the future. But as of now, we're pretty happy with setup. I'm very impressed. There's a really good amount of all the students here. Yay. Because I know PST time isn't the best for everyone, but that's just where I live. So I feel bad for all my wonderful international supporters. Might work something out in the future. We'll see. I'm a night owl, so I really don't mind doing stuff late, but I know it doesn't work for everyone, so we'll see. Really? Oh no, it shouldn't be public.
I'm in it right
There we go. Fixed. All right, it is 6 o'clock. Means we can get started. Yay. All right, I'm going to make my little face a little bit smaller. I guess that is me. Big purple hair. That will change probably as this series goes on. All right, fantastic. So a lot of you guys are completely new to ZBrush and haven't even opened any 3D modeling software. So this beginning lesson is not going to be the most exciting necessarily, but it's going to have a lot of good information to get started. Because if you can't navigate the program, you're not going to be able to create anything and you're going to be really frustrated. I did both when I started because I didn't watching tutorials. I was just like, I'm going to learn it myself. And it was very inefficient. So to everyone that is here, congrats, you were doing the correct thing. Just listen to someone who knows what they're doing. It'll save you a ton of time in the future. Also, side note, there's always different ways to get to the same result, you know? What I'm saying is not necessarily the golden rule, but it works really well for me. Just keep that in mind, take everything with a grain of salt. All right, so our first part here, just welcome and intro, pretty much what I've already done. Now let's get to booting up ZBrush. All right, so here we are. This is what we've got. And then my screen right now is not what I normally sculpt in. I have a different custom UI. But for this sake of the lesson, I want to make sure that my UI, so UI user interface, looks exactly the same as what you're going to see in front of you. All right. So what you see right here, this little box right here, hopefully that outline's a little clear for you, is called Lightbox. Essentially, it just has stored projects and stuff, and it's easy and quick reference. If you want this box to go away, you can click on the word Lightbox up here, and it'll go away. Now, something's kind of interesting to note. If you try to start sculpting, you get all these annoying boxes, which I'm not. Small explanation for that, it's because ZBrush is not a 3D program technically. It's a 2.5D. So what that means is it's actually like a drawing program. It renders it as 2D images stitched together for a 3D model. So that's why when you first start off, it's not 3D, you get these 2D squares. So what I do is, I go back to Lightbox, and I do this for pretty much every project I do. I go to Dynamesh Sphere. There's a bunch of different ones up here. I kind of just picked this one. It says project's been changed, would like to save changes. I say no, because I haven't done anything important. And then it'll bring us up with a sphere. So this is a good first start. Yes, I'm reading Raven's comment right there. That will be addressed, and I'll help with that a lot too. All right, it's about navigation. We'll get to that. All right. So the sphere that we have here is really standard. I either import a base mesh at this point, or I just sculpt directly onto it. Now, a few more navigation things, because that's the hardest part about navigating in ZBrush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a couple lines on the sphere, so that when I'm moving it around, you can actually see. If I move it around right now, you're not going to be able to tell because it's a perfectly round sphere. So the biggest thing to know with navigating in ZBrush is you click off of the model, it's going to rotate around. So clicking on the model will draw, of course, or sculpt. Off the model, we'll move it around. Now, sometimes you don't want to just keep your model centered like this. You want to pan the model around the screen. In order to do that, I hold down Alt on the keyboard and then click off of the model again and drag around. Those are the two biggest things you need to know with navigating ZBrush. So everything is off of the model, somewhere in that gray or black space on your UI around your model. So again, rotating, holding Alt, that will pan or move it around and then it'll stay there. If you end up losing your model and it's like way off the screen, you're not sure what to do, click the letter F on your keyboard. F for frame. And I'll bring it right back in. I'll go over that tip again when I go over the hotkeys spreadsheet cheat sheet I made for you guys. Alrighty. So those are the two biggest things that you need to know. I hope that helped you, Raven. All right. So those are the biggest things about moving around. The other thing you can do is turning on and off perspective. So what that's doing is like your field of view. If something is directly right up to your eye, there's like no distortion on it. If you're looking at it from way low or way high, it'll look a little more skewed. So if you click P on your keyboard, it'll get rid of that. So you can see that floor right there, that grid, comes towards the screen, but when I click P, it gets rid of perspective and it makes the grid on the bottom here into a straight flat line. Have perspective on, it's how we normally see the world, and it'll make your sculpts look a little bit better. I do have reasons for turning perspective off. I'll go over that later on. All right, that's the first kind of just quick tips about like booting up ZBrush and how to move around. If you're not comfortable with that, keep that question in your mind and we'll get to that. I'll answer you directly in the Q&A. So the next part is super important. This is the different modes and what they mean. So up here, you can see there's edit, draw, move, scale, and rotate. There's these other two here, which are kind of different modes, but I never use them, so don't worry about them. These are the most important ones right here. The number one thing you need to remember is to stay in edit mode. If you are not in edit mode, you are not in 3D, and it will cause a huge problem. So I'm going to simulate that problem for you right now. So if you click on edit, or if you click T on your keyboard, not sure why T stands for edit, but it does. If you forget that, definitely print out or save that keyboard, keyboard shortcuts. I lose my mind on that. Handout I made, and then that'll be a good reference of how to get back into it. So for this, I'll show you what happens. Click off of edit, it turns gray instead of orange, and that little line around here disappears. So now I start drawing, I just keep replicating the same thing I've created, which can be very frustrating. So to fix that, just click edit again. And then now you have these like other spheres you can't get rid of. That's because you have drawn objects onto your canvas. Because again, it's a 2.5D program. They're not really 3D objects I just drew. To get rid of that, Control, and then click N. There we go. So if that was a little too quick, just to know if you fall out of edit mode, click T, and then Control N. If you forget any of that, on my very first Learn to 3D Model tutorial on my website, that will show the solution for this, just in case you forgot. The next mode is draw mode. So draw mode is the best. It's what you'll be in pretty much all the time. Draw mode is just sculpting mode. So when I'm in that, I can do anything to the sphere, I can manipulate it. I can open different brushes, move them around. You kind of get the idea. Now, you don't always want to be in draw mode because you can do faster manipulations and move mode right here. So move mode, bring up the 3D gizmo, what this little sphere is called here. So since I am in symmetry, it's affecting it in two different areas. It's a little unclear. So for this tutorial, I'll turn off symmetry so it's a little more clear. So that's just my line of reference. And now I'm rotating it. You can see it's really easy to move this model where I want. Now I'm to the side here, you can see that there's 3 different axes, so X, Y, and Z. You don't need to know which ones are which, just know you can manipulate this in 3 different ways. So right here, I can rotate that way. You can also rotate this way. So you can really get your model exactly where you want it to be. Kind of a fun tip, if you hold down Shift while you're doing this, it will only rotate in 5-degree increments. If you want this exactly 90 degrees back, I can measure that out really nicely. So that's 90 degrees back. I can go 90 degrees forward, and then I am back to where I was. Just kind of a good little reference. It's been super helpful for me when I am doing things that I know I want this to be exactly parallel or whatnot. So again, there's a couple more things about move mode that are important. Other than just rotating your model around, you can also move the entire object. That'd be by grabbing any of these colored arrows, essentially. And the last really cool thing that you can do is you can grab this green box, and you can start to stretch it in these directions as well. And that applies for all different axes. So as you can tell, just with like move mode alone, even though it's not traditional sculpting, there's a lot you can do to manipulate your model and really get the shape that you want. There's been a lot of times I've been modeling like elves, for example, and I realize they're a little too stumpy and I want to be a little lankier at the end. So once the model's completely finished, I'll just go into move mode like this and then stretch them out like that. Just make them a little bit taller, maybe a little bit thinner, and suddenly they're more elfy. All right, so I'm sure you're like, well, what about scale and rotate? Honestly, I never use these modes. They're all built in within move mode, essentially, because right here, this is move, right? And I can also rotate and I can scale. So there's no reason to really click directly onto those modes. Just keep it real simple. You got draw mode and you have move mode. And then edit doesn't even count because you should always stay in edit mode. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. And as far as the hotkeys for that go, Q is for draw mode and W is for move mode. If you forget that, again, I have the handout for that. I hope this isn't going too fast and that this is pretty clear. These are really important fundamentals. It might seem overwhelming, but it will get easier, I promise. You just have to kind of get used to manipulating and moving around in it. What I recommend as far as like navigation and not like having it spin off the canvas is just doing smaller movements. So when I click somewhere off of my model, you don't have to move very much. The circle I'm doing is only like this big, if you can see that well. So like outlining the shape of like a quarter or a dime. It's really not very much. Just keep that in mind when moving around. You don't need to have huge manipulations to get what you want. Let's see. So we are moving through this pretty quickly. I figured we would. We're about 10 minutes ahead of schedule, which is totally fine. So I'm going to go a little bit more into detail, directly referencing the keyboard shortcut I made. I printed it out for myself to make sure that I'm actually addressing exactly what I gave you guys. All right. So we have draw, move, whenever the edit, that's all good. And then get another tip on the second column here, or row, where I printed out. There's a lot of hotkeys that they're saying hotkeys like it's convenient, but really it's the only way to get there. So the UI here, in my opinion, is really cluttered. I actually remove a lot of this. Pretty much all these buttons outside here, I don't use. So I get rid of them. As a result, I replace them with stuff on the keyboard. And the reason I leaned into using hotkeys is because there's a couple brushes you have to use hotkeys for. Like Shift is the smooth brush, for example. So when I hold Shift, you'll notice this brush up here is actually changing. And smooth does what it sounds like. It will smooth out any area of my model. If I go to my brush palette and try and click on smooth, it will even tell me press the Shift key and then click to use it. ZBrush doesn't want you to manually click on something. They really want you to utilize a keyboard as well. And it's not just ZBrush being stubborn. It really is faster to do. Because doing a click on the keyboard is much faster than going all the way across your tablet or your screen. So kind of some things to keep in mind. Now back to more hotkeys. My favorite ones to use is B. So B as in boy or B as in brush for a brush palette. So my brush palette here will look a little different than yours because I have some custom brushes in here, but generally this is what it's going to look like. This is great just for really easy access. If you want to, or if you forget where the brush is, you can click on any letters up here as well. So I can click on M, for example, and it will only highlight all the brushes that start with M. This can be really nice if you just are having a hard time zeroing in on what you need. So I clicked B, then M. You notice there's letters next to all of these brushes as well. So you can kind of like remember these hotkeys just for one brush. So for instance, L is mask lasso. So if I click B, M, and then L, I will now have a mask brush automatically active, which is really fantastic. You don't have to go that far. I honestly just go to click B for brush and then click on my brush manually. But if you want to, you can remember those like 3 letter combos for any brush that you want. Personally, what I do is I customize UI and I put all my brushes at the bottom here where I want. I'll show you guys my custom UI at the very end of this in the Q&A, kind of get an idea of how I structure it. All right, on to the next thing. So we went over brush palette and frame model and perspective. Now there's just a couple quick things. In a lot of other software, you guys are already familiar with this. Control-Z is undo. If you want to redo it, it's Control-Shift-Z. Pretty familiar. I know a lot of like Word document programs have the same functionality. If you didn't want to do that, you could also just go up here. So these little gray blocks up here is your undo history. So I can click on it and I can drag left and right and really quickly see what I want. I do that sometimes just to reference how quickly I've been working. I think it's fun sometimes to try and like finish a face within like 500 strokes. And right here I can see exactly how many. So I've done 20, it says 22 out of 25 right there, or 23. Anyway, it's kind of a fun thing to keep track of how much you've been doing and get really precise with it. No reason to put unnecessary pressure on yourself, like any finishes in 100. It's just kind of fun to do when you've done a face for like the 100th time, kind of start to optimize it. All right, so my favorite thing and one of the most important tips in this whole lesson is the spacebar. you hold down spacebar, wherever your cursor is, this little menu will pop up. My cursor's over here, boom, pops up. The reason I love this is because it just saves me a lot of time from going across the screen. Because right here, I can easily manipulate draw size, focal shift, and Z intensity, which is just super convenient because it's all in the same place right here. Draw size is what it sounds like. If I increase the draw size, it increases the brush. If I lower, small, just like that. Focal shift is a little more complicated. It's affecting because, let's back up. The brush size here is 2 circles, right? So the focal shift is affecting that inner circle. What that means is affecting the fall off. So the smaller the circle is, the bigger the fall off. Like, well, why does that matter? I'll show you with the clay buildup brush here. Let me remove that real quick. So if I have a really small focal shift, the clay buildup brush looks like this. It's really soft. If I decrease that so the fall off is really rough, it's a lot more crisp. I hope that makes sense. I know it's not the most intuitive thing, but once you see it in use, it's a little more comfortable to use. Other than that, within having the spacebar hotkey here, you can also do it for poly paint, really quick color selection. You can change your matte cap. Your matte cap is what material you're sculpting in. I pretty much exclusively sculpt in this right here. This is not default with ZBrush. This is off the Pixelogic website. So it is free to get. I just imported it because I liked it a little better than Polyskin. This is what you'll notice that all of my work in progress pictures are in this matte cap. Probably recognize this off the Discord. The move mode is also there if you didn't want to use the shortcut. But again, I recommend just clicking on W and that will bring that up just the same. All right, those are all of the hotkeys that I worked through. Making sure. Good. So now that we're ending the hotkey lesson right there, I do want to talk a little bit more about navigation and just a couple more advanced tricks for that. So I mentioned holding Alt and dragging off on the model, move it around, and not having any keys, and that will just kind of rotate it. Now, I always seem to snap it straight down, right? So for me, it's just like second nature, and it really helps me square everything off. So if it's kind of the skew right here, if I want to face it straight on, you hold down Shift, you click somewhere off your model and drag straight down. So I hope that you guys can see me somewhat well in the little mini camera of me there, because it's kind of hard to write on text that it makes sense. So again, holding Shift, clicking somewhere off your model and dragging in a straight line downwards. You can also go to the right, up, down, but I don't know why you'd want to shift everything up. I like having it really square on, so that's why I'll use Shift and then drag straight down, so it squares everything off for me. You don't have to do that, it just makes me more comfortable to navigate this 3D space and know where I am at. Speaking of that, I saw a couple people having trouble just using brushes because of the navigation. The move brush especially. So for example, if I want to take this section right here and draw it straight towards me, it's like, well, how do I do that? You can kind of angle it right here, you can pull straight up, but then you realize that's not what I wanted at all. I recommend trying to think of things like in perpendiculars. So if I want this little section right here to come out of the screen towards me, I will rotate 90 degrees and pull straight. So now it's pretty much straight towards me. The angle at which you look at your model does affect the way it manipulates it. You don't see this too much for when you're using brushes like clay buildup or flatten. We're using the move brush, so taking sections and pulling them off into a 3D space, it can be really tricky because your angle matters a lot. Something you can do to help a little bit is using Alt. So usually when you hold down the Alt key and use a brush, it will invert it. So let me show you what that means, just in case you're like, what? Where's clay buildup? There it is. This UI is different. All right. So clay buildup looks like this. So it's adding material, hold Alt, it subtracts it. Okay. So what is the inverse of the move brush? It doesn't punch into the model. What it does is it comes off in a 90-degree angle. So I'll show you. So if I'm grabbing this section right here and pulling straight down, it looks like that. If I hold Alt, it comes straight out. So again, the difference there, not using Alt with a move brush, yes, using Alt with a move brush. I did the exact same motion with my pen. Kind of give you an idea of how important navigation is when it comes to modeling. Because you think it's just how to look at your model, but it actually affects how the brushes work as well. You'll notice this with the spiral brush, clip brushes, that kind of stuff as well. How are we doing on time here? Super good. So I'm going about twice as fast as I expected. I kind of figured this would go quickly. I just want to make sure that the live chat wasn't blowing up with questions, and it's not. This is going somewhat quickly. All right. I want to make sure, rack my brain here, that I'm not missing anything huge when it comes to the UI. I don't think so. The only thing I haven't addressed that's extremely important is zooming in and out. So this is something on ZBrush that is not intuitive at all, and I encourage you to customize your UI to make it easier. So let me explain. So over here in the right column, there's a ton of buttons. I think I use 3 of them. I don't know why there's so many. All right, so you have the move right here, which is the same thing as holding Alt, and you have Zoom 3D, which is just what it sounds like. Awesome, right? Now the issue is they also have it up here. It says scroll instead. And so what it does is it moves the document. So again, ZBrush isn't a 3D program, it's 2.5D. So it's actually giving you a 2D image as if it's on a canvas. So it's a little hard to see, but there's a gray line here, which is actually the end of my canvas. So now when I try and manipulate my model, like I can get this really weird line. In order to fix that, you can do actual, and it will bring you back to your normal size. But it's unfortunate they put the zoom right here, because if you zoom out or zoom in, it gets really pixelated and really weird like that. You're pretty much never going to use this unless you're doing really specific renders. Even then, I don't recommend it. So one of the first things I did when customizing my UI is I removed all of those because I grabbed them by accident when I was first starting off. It was very frustrating and very confusing. So again, these buttons up here are not 3D. They only operate in a 2D function on the canvas. You want to come down here and you'll have zoom. I did not say what the ZBrush counterpart of the frame button is. I mentioned if you hit F on your keyboard, it'll bring it closer to you and in frame, but you could also click frame right here as well. So if you didn't have use of one of your hands, for example, and you really could only use one accurately, you could get most of your hotkeys, if not all of them, mapped onto here. Just want to make sure I'm not being too like insensitive in case someone's like, I can't use my other hand, this is ridiculous. You can work with it. ZBrush will still throw a fit for using masking or control smooth brushes, but you can overwrite that in the settings. If you have that problem, message me personally and we'll work something out, have the UI work for you. All right, we're doing super good on time. I'm glad. This is about halfway through. Fantastic. Let me look through really quick to make sure there's nothing large that I completely missed. Awesome, we're good. Okay, I'm gonna start going over details and questions for right now. I'm looking, someone mentioned, admin mentioned that the feed's a little bit choppy, but for someone else it's clear. That's gonna depend on your download speed or your internet speed, wherever you're at, also on my side. So live streaming, it's not the sharpest all the time, and for my internet plan that I have, the download's really good. Upload is okay, and this is for upload. So it might be a little bit choppy, but honestly, the most important things that I'm saying is like just the verbal content of it. Having smoother strokes you're not missing out on anything. Not the funnest thing to watch, but I promise all the information will still be there. But I am opening up questions right now, so if you guys have anything you want to ask, please ask. I don't mind repeating myself. Again, I really love teaching. If you need me to reword things, feel free to ask. I'm kind of rambling right here as well because there's about a 20 to 30 second delay. So if any of you guys ask questions, it will take me about 20 to 30 seconds to respond to you by the time that you finally see it. So I'll just hang out for a little bit. I'll be here for at least 10 minutes. If there's no questions, then I'll probably sign off. But those are the basics I want to show you guys. So now you should be comfortable with the UI. I could keep going on into like specific brushes and more detail, but the thing is, usually there's only so much information you can really absorb. And that's why I do 4 1-hour-ish lessons for the month instead of like 1 6-hour session. Because there comes a point where like, oh wow, it's a lot of information. I also recommend just going through and trying out everything I said. Try to get more comfortable with navigating. Because it's definitely something unique to try and navigate a 3D program. It's just requires a different level of spatial reasoning, essentially. Let's see. Sweet. Evan mentioned the audio is good, which I'm glad, because that's what my boyfriend and I fought for like 3 hours today. For some reason, our mic decided it wasn't having it today. So the audio is good now, but it was not earlier. So I'm very happy you confirmed that. We were stressing over that. I'm actually going to make myself a little bit larger here. That's me. So yes, I'm here. I'm ready to answer any questions if you guys do have them. I'm going to read back through Raven's comment because I only like skimmed it, but I know he had navigation questions. Okay, yeah, no, I answered all those. Rotating, zooming in, moving. And yes, so working on drawing tablet can be super confusing, especially if it's on a display tablet. So you guys can't tell in this camera angle, but in front of me, this tablet is actually the model that I see. I didn't learn on that though. I had one where I was drawing off of it and I'd look at a screen. There's kind of a disconnect there. If that's super challenging for you, I recommend buying a cheap display tablet. Unfortunately, the cheapest one's only like 200 bucks. So if you can, try and get used to the disconnect, or just make sure if you really love it, go on, get a display tablet. I love mine. All right, Spencer asks, where can we find templates to start sculpting from, like human forms? Fantastic question. Let me show you. Ooh, there's more questions. Fantastic. I'll get to Spencer's first. All right, so there's a couple different things you can do. You can go to thingiverse.com, CG Trader, type in human body. If you're uncomfortable with nudity, there's gonna be a lot of nudity. I'm just letting you guys know. So what I'm importing right now is minor nudity. You should be fine. We're adults. All right. So I go to Tool, Import, and that's me bringing in a 3D model. So for me, I get a Dropbox. I actually go to the same. These are the Patreon rewards that you get. I use the same ones because it's convenient for me, and Dropbox is cool. ZBrush files, assets. That was wrong. ZBrush files. There we go. Brushes and base meshes. I swear I do this myself every day. I just forget. All right. White female low poly. Click on it again, and it will bring in that model. So now I have a base mesh I can start sculpting off of. I use this one constantly because it's really well subdivided. So what I can do is I can go to geometry, click on divide, and it will smooth the model right out. But sometimes I like it being really low poly because it's a lot easier to manipulate. I hope that answered your question. If you do not have a .obj, do not go to Tool and Import. It will not work. Go to Z plugin, 3D Print Hub, import STL file. Why is it different? I don't know. I don't know why this one's hidden. This drove me nuts for the longest time. But you can only import .obj files and .stl files. If you have something in a different format that you want, there's a lot of 3D model converters online, or you can get a mesh mixer. Let's see. Edmund asks, if there are two model/tool present on the scene, how do you move each? That is a very good question. So we'll say this is my model right here. So I click W to go into move mode. I can grab this and move back and forth. But you mentioned what if there was two? So what I'll do is I'll go to Subtool, scroll down to duplicate, and now I will have two. So I'm not sure if you meant to move both at the same time. I'm going to answer that anyway. If you want to move both at the same time, you click on this little bar right here. It says transpose all selected subtools in orange under the 3 gizmo. Click on that, and now it'll move both. I hope that answered your question. If not, ask it again. I'll answer it again. All right. Do not know how to say your name correctly, but I'll read your comment out loud. I have a keyboard that's 18 macro keys I can set. Is there anything you recommend setting to a special key? That's a super good question. I'm considering getting a customizable keyboard as well. Honestly, I like the way the hotkeys are laid out as of now because, let's see, Q, W, T, B, F, P, all of those letters, or most, except for P, they're all on the left side of the keyboard, and I use my left hand for my keyboard, so it works out really well for me. Honestly, those are all the ones that are super important. Just make sure you have Control, Shift, and then everything on that keyboard, that in frame, yes, the keyboard shortcuts page. I use all of those constantly. You probably don't need P for perspective. I just like using it because I cut my models flat on the base to make sure they fit really snug. But you don't have to do it like that. Sweet. You're welcome, Spencer. I'm glad I helped you as well, Edmund. I want to make sure I answered your question clearly. And guys, again, don't feel bad about asking me to repeat myself. I know I can talk really fast. I might forget to say a word or two. I think I say all of them, but I'll kind of skip around. So if it didn't make sense, just let me know. I have no problem repeating myself. Kind of hanging out here, waiting to see if any more questions pop up. I'll be here in like 15 minutes. I'll just be hanging out. If it's quiet and weird for you, you can leave. If not, stick around. I'll probably answer some else's questions as well. And if there's anything else that you want to know about UI or navigation, definitely ask now as well. The whole point of this lesson was a kind of a brief intro about just UI. I think it's something the objective. Yeah, to be able to start a model and then to be more familiar with the ZBrush interface. I'm confident that we covered both of those, but again, of course I am because I'm the one who has been doing this for hundreds of hours. So if I miss something big, let me know. I see Edmund has a follow-up question. How do you select each individual tool on the scene? Fantastic question. So right here, I have 2 of my orbs. In order to select one, let me move them apart from each other so you can actually see them. In order to select one, you go to your subtool menu. So tools over here, go down to subtool, and all of them are right here. So ZBrush has this thing where everything is shades of different grays, and it's not helpful because you can barely tell that's a different gray, but I am clicking on that and it is selecting it. So again, in my custom UI, I make it so it's a little easier to tell the difference, because otherwise, if you're just looking at this, it looks like it's the exact same shade. That's how you do. You go subtool and you click on it. All right, another question. You mentioned a scale brush when you were talking about the feather prompt. Where can I get something like that? Honest Abe. How did I not read that? That's so obvious. Yeah, I don't know. My brain was just connecting the last part of that, and it was like Stavy. I was not reading Honest Abe. Anyway, thank you for clarifying. All right. So my favorite place to go for fantastic brushes is Bad King. So let's see if I can pull it up. Bear with me here. I have like 3 monitors in front of me. Bad King is fantastic. I highly recommend that you donate to them. Similar to me, they're pretty much completely free, and you can use them commercially, which is crazy generous of them. I would not have done that. All right, I'm pulling this down here. Pardon the frame rate. All right, here's Bad King. It is absolutely fantastic. There are so many different brushes here, and this is where I got my scale brush. I'm trying to see where it clearly says, they have tutorials as well. You try to check that out as well. Yeah, products. They say products as if they sell things, but everything is free. I think some things you pay for, but the vast majority is free. Here we go. Tons of brushes here. Absolutely fantastic. Even though it is commercial use and royalty free, if you do use some of their brushes, I recommend you credit them somewhere. I don't think I did for my scale brush, which was rude of me, but you should because they're wonderful and a lot of artists contributed to the site. All right. Yes, Edmund, that was it, but it's okay. I said Edmund really weird, but whatever. It's okay. There's a lot of things with ZBrush where it's intuitive, but it's not, so don't feel bad. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad that you were the only person. I'm not the only one who said Honest Abe wrong. Hohenstad. That's very funny. These are all really good questions. You guys are totally on the right track. I was really impressed by how many of you guys have like no experience with 3D modeling. You're jumping in. Like, that's fantastic. It is not the easiest hobby to jump into. And because you have to upright pay for stuff, it's not like, I'm gonna learn how to draw. It's a pencil and paper. It's really hard. It's like, oh, I want 3D modeling. Well, here's your $300 software. Here's your $200 tablet. So I know it can feel a little overwhelming. So go you guys. Trying to think of anything that I wish I knew. Oh, something's kind of cool that I wish I knew when I was starting off. So I duplicated this model in front of me. I just go into subtool and then duplicate. But you also can go into move mode by clicking W, hold control, and just drag off of it, and it will duplicate. I thought that was the coolest thing. Just letting you guys know. All right. Next up is like get a brush. How do you import it? Isn't there a few in your ZBrush files? There definitely is, and they're mostly from Bad King. So there's two different ways you can do that. One, click on B for brush palette, and right here it says load brush. With on load brush, you can go to your downloads or where I assume it may be in your downloads if you downloaded it. Unless you have something weird going on. Anyway, the brush should be there. Make sure you have unzipped the file, otherwise it can't open it. And then just click open, and it'll be right there. If you want to be there every single time that you start up ZBrush, there's a few more steps involved for that. I'll go over them really quickly. Come on, computer. It's like ZBrush and live streaming? No. All right. So bring up your files right here, and then find wherever ZBrush is. Let's see if I can find it in a timely manner. If I can't, I'm going to dip out of this question. There we go. Pixel Logic. Yay, ZBrush. All right, so I went to my operating system, program files, Pixel Logic, and then ZBrush. That's probably where your copy is. Same for ZBrush Core. So within all of this, I went to ZBrushes, copy and pasted into there. It would also work if you went to presets. Where is it? Or Z Startup. Yes. Z Startup or ZBrushes. Copy paste into there and it will work when you open it. I hope that helped. All right, another question from Simon. Hi, just jumping in. Hope you didn't already answer this. No problem. I'm an experienced sculptor, but I'm wondering how many hours of work it was before you were professional, creating professional objects. I butchered that, but thank you for your comment. And yes, you're jumping in, don't feel bad. Especially since your experience, I didn't cover anything you probably wouldn't already know. So I started, it's hard for me to like draw the line of like where it's professional. I consider myself a professional now because it's what I profess. It's what I do every day. So even when I was terrible, I was a professional because it's what I did every day. Sounds silly because you think it's a certain level of quality. But when I would try to think of it in that way, I'm very, self-critical like most artists. So it feels weird to say I'm professional because I'm good enough. So essentially I started selling objects and models the second I could make stuff that was decent and recognizable. I started off commissions only $20 a piece. They probably could have gone for closer to 60 or 70. But in the beginning, I think it's good to be a little more humble and underprice a little bit just because you're not great with answering clients, communicating, and just good practice. That was a weird answer, but I hope it helped. So yeah, my definition of professional is a little weird. It's like, what do you profess? What do you do every day? I model every day, so that's what I do. All right, another question. Are all the tools present on scene listed on the subtool panel? Does it behave like as a hierarchy? Same with Blender. Yes. Yes. I don't know how to like double think that. But yeah. So essentially whatever is on your scene or your model, so I'll have like my Elven Blade Singer, for example. She has a ton of little like bracelets and armor pieces. So I had like 30 different objects in here because they're all present on this scene. So very similar to Blender. You can reorganize them in hierarchy just like that. Good question. These are really good questions. I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited to see that. I hope the work in progress channel on the Discord has more like people sharing their stuff. I think you guys are shy, but I'd love to see what you're starting off. Even if you think it sucks, it's still fun to share. Okay, I'm glad that was helpful, Simon. Especially as like talking like with other artists and stuff. It's funny because I graduated in May from college, a degree in mechanical engineering, and that's why I did art full-time, right? Because I wasn't a student anymore. And even though like 2 months after doing it, I really didn't consider myself like an artist until like last month, which is funny. When people ask me like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I graduated, which is very weird. It's like, I'm sure you guys think that's weird because like, well, I have a Patreon, I decide to make my living. Of course, you're an artist. It's hard to define. It feels very weird when you're the word artist sounds like sacred for some reason. That's how I view it. It feels weird. Let's see, more questions. Okay, no, cool. Make sure I wasn't rambling over a question. All right. I've been asked, how do you export them as one? Very good. All right, so let me duplicate this again. There we go. So I have two objects here. All right, so what you do is you have to merge them together. So you can merge them right here. When you merge them, it'll say right here, this is not an undoable operation. If you don't want to do that permanently, what I recommend that you do, go to merge visible. So everything on your screen that is visible and so it isn't hidden will merge together. Merge visible. And it's like, oh wait, they're two separate objects, nothing happened. It did. Scroll up to tool, and right here it says realistic white sphere or whatever. And then right here it says merge realistic. This is what is actually merged. And so that way you still have your unmerged version and your merged version. I didn't discover this until recently. So if you go to my ZBrush files, I'll have merged and unmerged because I was a noob. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm still very much so learning. And then the best way to export that, you go to Tool and then Export. That's for an OBJ. If you want an STL, you go to, did I ever export an STL? There we go. Yeah, Z plugin, export to STL. I never export to STL because I import them in a mesh mixer anyway. But yeah, you can export to OBJ or STL, either way. All right, Simon says, I think I missed this answer too, so sorry for the repeat. Don't worry about it. Where do you find base models to start with? And Thomas is right, I was talking about Thingiverse. Good question, you guys are the best. But if you want a little more information, I also, if you don't know how to import them, just go to Tool, Import, and that will bring in your .obj file. If you need to bring in a base mesh, it's an STL, Z plugin, import STL. Just kind of give you a little more answer there. But thank you, Thomas. And admin is also right. You can look in the Lightbox panel. ZBrush has a lot of samples there, and they're pretty great. You guys are so helpful. I love it. Like, honestly, in the Discord, like, I feel bad because sometimes you guys will help each other before I can get to it. But then I realize you guys help each other within like 10 minutes of the question. So I'm like, I can't compete with that. So go you guys. I will help you as soon as I see it. This has been super fun. I knew it was going to be fun, but I'm still really enjoying this. Let's see, it's 6:42. So this was about the time that I had planned to get to the end of the lesson, assuming I had technical problems like that, but it ran really smooth, so the entire lesson was only like 24 minutes, which is great. It'll be a little longer later on, but in the beginning, so many of you guys said in the survey you've never even touched 3D modeling program, and there's no way you're gonna memorize everything I just said. It's like, wait, how do I zoom? How do I move around? It's gonna take a lot of progress, repetition to get comfortable with it. Yep, I'll hang out till 6:45 unless there's any more questions. Yeah, this is great. I'm really happy with this. We had about 20 people that tuned in, and there's only like 40 people in the entire class, and like 7 of them, more than 7, are all international and probably asleep right now. So I'm very impressed with the turnout. You guys are very diligent. Good job. I'm hoping to do more live streams just of me modeling as well. I stopped doing it in the beginning because I was getting too in my head. It's like when I model by myself, I'm not too worried about it. People are watching. It's like I'm thinking of what they would think if they were mean, which you guys aren't. I don't know. I think it's an artist thing. It's like, don't look at what I'm doing. I'm trying to get over that. Oh, some people have asked me in the past about the glove. It's totally optional. I thought they were dumb at first. I'm like, oh, they're just trying to look cool. No, it's pretty comfortable actually. Because when you're sliding back and forth on the surface of the tablet, your skin will kind of like stick to it, especially if you're sweaty. So the glove kind of helps with that. Just in case you're wondering. Why is it just 2 fingers? I don't know, to look cool. All right, Evan asked, do you enable autosave with ZBrush or is it on by default? Both. So if you go to preferences, let's see, quick save. right here, you can customize how often it will save. So it's not saving the whole file, it's saving in a different folder called Quick Save. So it says maximum duration 20 minutes. Usually, I don't know why it's set high. Oh, because I restored the UI for the lesson, duh. I actually have the maximum duration all the way down to 2 minutes. Because ZBrush crashes a lot, and it drives me nuts, even lose 2 minutes of work. So when quick save is to 2 minutes, that means every single 2 minutes it is saving. Where is it saving? You go to Lightbox. Where is it? Quick save. Here are all of my models, and you can tell it's already saved 5 times during this lesson. If you actually want to save, go to File, Save As. Be careful not to go to Document. Document will save a picture of your model, a 2D picture. I did that in the beginning because I figured save was save. It does not save. Go to File, Save As. That will save. Spencer would love to see live streams. It probably would be very helpful. I will do them. I will. I say it all weird because I'm like, I don't know why I'm not. I'm just in my own head. Honest Apes, I'm trying to use my iPad as a drawing tablet without a stylus for now because free. Not a huge fan. Yeah, it's tricky. That sounds really tricky. A stylus, it's not necessarily like necessary, but pretty much, unless you're really good with your fingers and like curves. For me, kind of like a artist tip here. When I first started drawing, you use your wrist a lot, right? Wrong. If you want really good strokes, you kind of you sculpt from your elbow and from your shoulder. That makes sense. It's not a lot of this. If you do a lot of this, you're gonna wear out your wrist. I had to wear a wrist brace for like 2 months because I had stretched out my tendons and it was very uncomfortable and painful. But I still wanted to model, you know? So just keep that in mind that when you're modeling, try to sculpt with your arm, not your wrist. You'll get better, cleaner strokes as well. Let's see. Simon would also be very interested in seeing live streams. Yeah, it is. Seeing others does help a lot. I learn the most from watching others sculpt. And it's very frustrating for me because it seems like professionals that are way better than I am, when they live stream, they just obsess on like a belt buckle for 3 hours. And I'm like, on a perfect model. And I'm like, I want to see the starting process. I want to see, that's where you really learn stuff. I don't want to see you spin around and like poke at this perfect model. So when I do live streams, I can guarantee you're going to see from start to finish. I have a couple of live streams up now, and I have ones where I work for 2 hours and I scrap the whole thing because I don't like it. Don't be afraid to fail. The quicker you fail, the faster you'll get better. So be excited to fail, honestly. Sounds cheesy, but like, go with it. All right. Honest Abe says, I'm trying to make the decision between a $100 stylus or drop around that much on a decent drawing tablet. Yeah, $100 stylus, that sounds like Apple for sure. I would recommend getting a tablet. You can get a decent one for 20 bucks. It's not the best. The pen's kind of chunky and the tablet's like this big, but it works. I use the Wacom Intuos. It's like 70 bucks. They have a new one out for 200, which is ridiculous. Ignore that. Ignore Wacom for everything but the Intuos, the lowest model. The Cintiq's like $3,000, rare price. It's ridiculous. I trust Huon. I recommend Huon a lot. All right, let's see. The fabric of the glove prevents the towel from picking up touches from the part of your hand that touches it. That's not true for a display tablet. It's not a touchscreen. So it has nothing to do with touch feedback. It's purely comfort of gliding across the surface. Sounds goofy, but you're right. If you had a touchscreen, I used to use this. I can see that. Yeah, you can't see that. My laptop is touchscreen, so I would use the glove for that. I stopped using my laptop instead of my tablet because there's no pressure sensitivity, which is really annoying because it adjusts the intensity constantly. So the pressure sensitivity is worth it. Actually been a very good discussion. I'm very happy with this. I said like 10 times, but I don't know. This is cool. I'm gonna hang around for like another minute or so. A few more questions. And again, keep in mind there's like a 20 to 30-second delay. So if you're like, wow, it takes forever to see my comment, I see it immediately. I just, live streaming, it's slow. I could get a smaller latency, but then it'll be even choppier than it possibly already is. I don't want to risk that. So yeah. Almost dropping my pen. Simon asked, what tablet are you using? Great question. I'm using Boyfriend. What am I? I don't remember.
The Huon Canvas Pro 16.
Huon Canvas Pro 16, if you didn't hear that. It's just the same one with like laptops and TVs. It has so many like numbers and acronyms, and I'm like, just what? It doesn't stick. Anyway, I absolutely love this. I think it's like $400. That's more than you probably need to spend. I'm even kind of embarrassed, but I really like it. It's really thin. It's only like 2 pounds. My other one was more than 12 pounds, also from Huon. So very nice. I have a link on my website. It says my equipment. You can probably pull it up, but I'm not gonna advertise that hard. Anyway, if you use any of the links on my website for my equipment, I'm an Amazon affiliate, so I get some money, which is cool. But you don't have to. But if you do, it's like buying me a coffee. So yeah. Bye, Spencer. Thank you for joining. I keep saying I'm going to leave, but they keep asking good questions. I'm like, I'll just stay. All right, I think I'm about to wrap it up here. Ooh. Francois mentioned that is the tablet his daughter wants for Christmas. Gonna have to get 2. Yes, they're wonderful, and your daughter has great choice. I love it. It's so wonderful. You're like, oh, well, Cintiq is like 2 grams, it's 400. Cintiqs are not more than twice as good or quadruple as good. It's ridiculous. These, I really can't imagine why I'd want more, honestly. Sounds dramatic. Sometimes the buttons stick if I use them in conjunction with the keyboard, but I don't use the buttons a whole lot, so it doesn't really matter. All right, Edmund, do you worry that when merging all the objects, it will not be a clean model for printing? Or ZBrush does it so good that you don't mind it at all? So when you merge them all together, you have to review the mesh. So you use Dynamesh. You mentioned Blender before, so you're probably a Blender user. I'm not sure what's called in Blender, but I guarantee they have the same function. You merge it all together, and you'll have intersecting faces. Because every model is made of polygons. Just this sphere is made of a bunch of smaller squares, right? So I merge them together. That material is still in there. So the sphere is still in this other sphere. When you Dynamesh them, it makes it one continuous object, and then you can smooth out any of the edges or the creases. But honestly, if you're designing minis like me, you probably don't have to obsess about creases and lines. I do. You guys probably noticed I design minis as if they were being printed 6 feet tall. A lot of people don't know why I put so many tiny details in there. I don't either. I can't help it. I really love making them super detailed and realistic-ish. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for joining. These were some fantastic questions. I'm surprised that like all of you guys stayed to the end of the Q&A, which is like extra fantastic. Again, the lesson seems slow and like, oh, this is so beginner. Thank you for bearing with it. I know it's not exciting in the beginning, but you gotta get your bearings of how to use the tool before you get used to it. So I guarantee you feel like that was too easy. Try navigating ZBrush. You'll realize you forgot half of it because I know I did when I was learning. Get comfortable, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.